The doorbell rang exactly 4 days after we buried Dad. I was still wearing the same black dress from the funeral, wrinkled now from endless hours of sorting through medical bills and insurance papers. My name is Skylar, and I thought I was prepared for everything after 5 years of watching cancer eat away at my father. I wasn't prepared for this. Surprise! Eliza's voice carried that fake cheerfulness I remembered from childhood. She stood on our front porch. No, my front porch. Designer handbag clutched in manicured fingers. Behind her, Jude lounged against his rental car, sunglasses hiding his eyes. "We thought you could use some family support," he called out, not moving to help as Eliza pushed past me into the house. The irony almost made me laugh. Where was this family support during the countless nights I spent changing Dad's sheets, during the chemotherapy appointments? During the times I had to choose between paying for his medication or my own rent? "You've let the place go a bit," Eliza commented, running a finger along the dusty mantle. "But don't worry, we'll fix that up soon enough." I followed them into Dad's study, watching as they made themselves comfortable in leather chairs that still held the impression of our father's form. The room smelled of his cologne and pipe tobacco, scents I hadn't had the heart to air out yet. "We have something important to discuss," Jude said, finally removing his sunglasses. He pulled out a crisp envelope from his jacket pocket. Dad made some changes to his will before... My stomach dropped. Changes? "It's actually quite fair." Eliza jumped in, her voice dripping with rehearsed sympathy. He wanted to make sure we all got our share. The house, the investments, everything split 3 ways. I stared at the document they slid across Dad's desk. The signature looked wrong. Too neat. Dad's hands had been shaking badly those last months. "This is dated 2 weeks ago," I said quietly. "He was on morphine then. He could barely hold a pen." "Oh, honey." Eliza's patronizing tone made my skin crawl. "He had his lucid moments. You were probably just too exhausted to notice. Being a live-in nurse must have been so draining." Jude patted my hand. Actually, patted it, like I was some confused child. "You did your duty, sis. Now let us handle the rest. We're thinking of listing the house next month. You'll have plenty of time to find a new place." I felt something snap inside me, but kept my face carefully blank. They expected tears, probably. Expected me to break down or beg. Instead, I nodded slowly. "I need some time to process this," I managed to say. "Would you mind if we discuss details tomorrow? I'm still not sleeping well." Of course," Eliza stood smoothing her silk blouse. "We'll be at the Marriott downtown. Take all the time you need." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Within reason, of course." I waited until their car disappeared down the driveway before I allowed my hands to shake. 5 years. 5 years I'd given up my life, my career, my relationships to care for our father, and they thought they could waltz in with a forged will and take everything. Moving on autopilot, I went to Dad's desk and opened the bottom drawer. Behind a stack of old medical reports sat a small metal box. Inside was a flash drive labelled in Dad's shaky handwriting, "For when they show their true colours." My phone buzzed. A text from Rick, Dad's attorney. "Got your message. Meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. Don't worry, we were ready for this." I held the flash drive tight, remembering Dad's words from months ago. "Skylar, sometimes justice needs a little help arriving on time." For the first time since the funeral, I smiled. Eliza and Jude thought they were closing in for the kill. They had no idea they'd just walked into their own trap. The memory hit me as I sat in Rick's office the next morning. Dad, propped up in his hospital bed, gripping my hand with surprising strength. "They'll come like vultures," he'd said. "Watch the bank accounts after I'm gone. You'll see." He was right. I pulled out my phone and showed Rick the transaction history. 5 days before Dad died, there was a transfer of $50,000 to Eliza's account. Rick adjusted his reading glasses, frowning at the screen. Your father was unconscious by then. Exactly. I pulled up another document. And look at this. Jude tried accessing Dad's investment portfolio the same day. Smart girl, Rick nodded, reaching for a thick folder. Your father knew this would happen. That's why we started documenting everything 3 years ago. The folder contained hundreds of screenshots, emails and text messages, missed calls when Dad needed emergency surgery, ignored requests for help with medical bills, excuses about busy schedules when he begged to see his grandchildren one last time. Remember this? Rick played a voicemail from last Christmas. Eliza's voice filled the room. Dad, we're just too busy this year. Besides, with your condition, it would only upset the kids to see you like this. I closed my eyes, remembering how Dad tried to hide his tears that day. He spent Christmas watching old home videos instead. While you were changing his bandages, Rick added quietly. I was there, remember. Brought him that terrible fruitcake. The office door opened, and Rick's assistant poked her head in. They're here. Eliza and Jude swept in like they owned the place. Eliza's husband Will trailed behind them, tapping away on his phone. Let's make this quick, Eliza announced, pulling out their forged will. We have a meeting with a realtor at noon. Rick cleared his throat. Before we proceed, there's something you should know about your father's actual wishes. We know his wishes, Jude cut in. They're right here in black and white. Interesting choice of words, Rick said, sliding a document across the table. Because I have here the real will, notarized 3 months ago, along with this. He turned his computer monitor around. There was Dad sitting in his study, looking directly into the camera. The timestamp showed 2 months before his death. If you're watching this, Dad's recorded voice filled the room. It means my children have done exactly what I feared they would. Eliza's face went white. Jude started to stand, but Will grabbed his arm. For 5 years, Dad continued, only one of my children showed any real love. Skylar sacrificed everything to care for me. The others... He paused, coughing. The others couldn't even be bothered to call on my birthday. Turn it off, Eliza demanded, but Rick ignored her. Therefore, I, being of sound mind, leave my entire estate to my daughter Skylar. The house, the investments, everything. Let the record show this decision wasn't made out of malice, but out of justice. The video ended. The silence that followed was deafening. This is ridiculous, Jude finally sputtered. We'll contest it. Go ahead, Rick said mildly. But first, you might want to explain that $50,000 transfer you made from your father's account while he was comatose. Will finally looked up from his phone. Eliza, what transfer? It's not what you think, she started, but I'd heard enough. Get out, I said quietly. Both of you. Take your fake will and get out. You can't just... Jude began. Actually, she can, Rick interrupted. This is her house now. Has been since your father signed everything over to her last year. Today was just a courtesy meeting. They left in a storm of threats and slammed doors. Will lingered behind, looking uncomfortable. For what it's worth, he said, I told Eliza this was a bad idea. After they were gone, Rick handed me a sealed envelope. Your father wanted you to have this too. Said to open it if things got ugly. I took it with trembling hands, recognizing Dad's handwriting. In case they turn on you. The war had begun, but Dad had made sure I was armed for battle. They took the bait, I told Amber over coffee the next morning. My old friend from law school, now a paralegal specialising in estate litigation, was already scanning through the documents I'd gathered. "You're kidding me," she said, comparing the signatures. "They didn't even try to match your dad's tremor. This is amateur hour forgery." My phone buzzed. Another threatening text from Eliza. "Hope you're ready for a long legal battle, little sister. Will's lawyers are preparing paperwork." "Let them waste their money," Amber snorted, reading over my shoulder. "Your dad was brilliant, setting all this up in advance." A notification popped up on my laptop. "They're in Dad's office right now," I said, watching the security camera feed. Third time this week. On screen, Jude was frantically typing at Dad's computer while Eliza kept watch at the door. They'd gotten the spare key from the gardener, thinking I didn't know. "What are they looking for?" Amber asked. "Emails? Bank statements? Anything to prove Dad wasn't of sound mind when he made the real will." I sipped my coffee. "They don't know everything's backed up to the cloud." "Speaking of evidence," Amber pulled out her tablet. "Look what I found in the county records. Eliza tried to take out a loan against the house 3 months ago, used a forged power of attorney. The bank rejected it. Better, they reported it to the fraud department. I have a friend there who's very interested in this case." My phone rang. Rick's office. "Skylar? They're here, demanding a formal meeting." Brought their lawyer. "Perfect timing," I said, winking at Amber. "Tell them I'll be there in 20 minutes. And, Rick, make sure the video equipment is ready." When we arrived at Rick's office, Eliza and Jude were already seated with their lawyer, a sharp-suited woman who introduced herself as Ms. Patterson. "My clients," she began, "contest the validity of the video will. Mr." Richardson was clearly under duress. "You mean, like when he made this?" I interrupted, sliding across a printout of Eliza's failed loan application. "Or maybe when this happened." I played a security clip from Dad's study. There was Jude, clearly visible, going through Dad's desk at 2 a.m. 3 days before he died. "That's illegal surveillance," Miss Patterson protested. "Actually," Amber chimed in, "it's a registered security system with posted notices. Standard for home healthcare situations." "We have more," I added quietly. "So much more. Every deleted email, every declined call when Dad was in the ER, every conversation where you planned this, thinking I was too exhausted to notice." Eliza's composure cracked. "You self-righteous little—" "Careful," Rick warned. "Everything in this room is being recorded." "You want to talk about recordings?" Jude leaned forward. "That video could easily be faked." "Technology these days." "That's why we had it notarized," Rick cut in, "with witnesses and DNA samples to prove your father's identity. Would you like to see the chain of custody documents?" Ms. Patterson was already packing her briefcase. "We should continue this discussion after I review the new evidence." "There's no discussion needed," I said, standing up. "Dad knew you'd try this. He spent years preparing. Every document, every video, every transaction, it's all authenticated and legally bulletproof." "You planned this," Eliza whispered. "All those years playing the devoted daughter." "No," I corrected her. "Dad planned this. I just followed his instructions. The same instructions you would have known about if you'd bothered to visit him more than twice in 5 years." As they filed out, Jude turned back. "This isn't over." "Actually, it is," Amber called after him. "The fraud department is very interested in that bank transfer you made. Expect their call." When they were gone, Rick poured us all a drink. "Your father would be proud," he said. "You played it exactly as he predicted." I touched the envelope in my pocket, still unopened. "Not quite finished yet," I said. "Dad left one more surprise for them." "And tomorrow, They're going to learn what it means to truly lose everything. A family meeting? Eliza's voice dripped with suspicion over the phone. Why now? Dad's final video message, I explained, keeping my tone deliberately shaky. Rick says we all need to be present for the viewing. Something about closure. Fine. Tomorrow at 3. She paused. And Skylar, bring any paperwork you're willing to sign. Maybe we can end this amicably. I hung up and turned to Rick, who was setting up the conference room's video equipment. They're coming. Jude, too. Your father would have appreciated the theatrics of this, Rick chuckled, adjusting the projector. Having them all here for the grand finale. The next day, I arrived early to find Jude already waiting, a bottle of champagne in hand. For after we settle this mess, he said with a wink. Eliza swept in moments later, trailed by a realtor clutching a folder of listings. Just getting a head start, she explained sweetly. The house will need work before we can sell. Rick cleared his throat. If everyone's ready, we'll begin with your father's final message. The lights dimmed. Dad's face filled the screen. But this wasn't the frail man they'd ignored. This was Dad from 8 months ago, sitting straight-backed in his study, eyes sharp and clear. My dear children, he began, if you're watching this, then everything has happened exactly as I predicted. Eliza, put down your phone. This is more important than your social media. Eliza froze, her hand halfway to her pocket. For 5 years, Dad continued, I watched and waited. While Skylar sacrificed everything to care for me, I watched you both build lives that excluded your dying father. But that wasn't enough, was it? You had to come back for one final grab. Jude's champagne bottle slipped from his fingers, hitting the carpet with a thud. So, let me be clear. Skylar is my sole heir. Every attempt you've made to challenge this, the forged will, the bank transfers, the midnight visits to my office, was documented. And now it will cost you. This is fake. Eliza stood up, voice shrill. A deep fake video. The original footage, Rick interrupted, has been stored with 3 separate notaries since January. Would you like their contact information? Let me save you some time, Dad's voice continued. Eliza, that loan you tried to take out against my house, the bank didn't just reject it. They've opened a fraud investigation. And Jude, those investment accounts you tried to access? Every attempt was logged and reported. The realtor quietly gathered her papers and slipped out. But worst of all, Dad leaned closer to the camera. You betrayed the one person who never gave up on this family. Your sister spent 5 years changing my bandages, managing my pain, reading to me when I couldn't sleep. Where were you? At parties, on vacation, ignoring my calls from the hospital. Tears were streaming down my face now, but I didn't bother wiping them away. So, here's what happens next, Dad said. Everything goes to Skylar, the house, the investments, everything. And if you challenge it, Rick has instructions to release 5 years' worth of evidence to the authorities. Choose wisely. The screen went dark. In the silence that followed, we could hear traffic outside, normal life continuing while our world imploded. You planned this, Jude whispered. All of it. No, I replied softly. Dad did. He saw who you really were long before I did. We'll fight this, Eliza snarled, but her voice wavered. Rick silently slid a folder across the table. These are the notarized statements from your father's doctors, nurses, and witnesses, confirming his mental competency when he made these decisions. Would you like to see the brain scans too? Get out, I said, standing up. Both of you, get out of my house. They left, but not before Eliza turned back one last time. "This isn't justice," she spat. "This is revenge." "No," I corrected her. "This is karma, and it's only the beginning." The door slammed behind them. Rick squeezed my shoulder. "Ready? Shoot for phase 2? I nodded, pulling out Dad's sealed envelope. Time to show them what real justice looks like. The courthouse steps were slick with morning rain when Eliza's husband Will cornered me. "We can still fix this," he said, blocking my path. "Name your price." "Move," I replied quietly. "The judge is waiting." Inside, courtroom 3 was already packed. Eliza and Jude sat with their new legal team, 3 expensive suits from Will's firm. Rick waited at her table, calm as ever. "Before we begin," Judge Martinez said, "I understand there's additional video evidence." Rick nodded. "Your Honor, this is a private recording Mr. Richardson made for his daughter, Skylar. It directly addresses the claims of coercion." The screen flickered to life. Dad appeared, looking tired but peaceful, sitting in his favourite garden chair. "Skylar," he began, "if they're showing this in court, it means your siblings didn't back down. I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry for a lot of things." Eliza shifted uncomfortably in her seat. "I favoured them, you know. When you were kids, Eliza was my princess, Jude my champion. I thought you were too quiet, too serious. I was wrong. You were just deeper, more real." My hands trembled beneath the table. "Remember when you were 12? You saved all your allowance to buy me that ridiculous tie for Father's Day, the one with dancing penguins?" Eliza laughed at it, but I wore it to every chemo session. The nurses called it my lucky tie. One of Will's lawyers leaned over to whisper something, but Eliza waved him off, her eyes fixed on the screen. "I know they'll say you manipulated me, that you isolated me to steal their inheritance. But we both know the truth. You were there when I couldn't hold a spoon. When the pain was so bad, I cursed God. When I forgot my own name, but somehow always remembered yours." Jude stood abruptly, heading for the door, but the judge's sharp "sit down" froze him mid-step. "I'm leaving you everything not because you earned it, though God knows you did, but because you're the only one who understood what family really means. The only one who saw me as a father, not a bank account." The video ended. Judge Martinez removed her glasses, studying the courtroom. "Your Honor," Will's lead attorney started, but she held up her hand. "I've seen enough. The will stands as written. Furthermore," she shuffled through her papers, "I'm referring this matter to the District Attorney's Office for investigation into attempted fraud and elder abuse." "You can't," Eliza shot to her feet. "I can, and I am." "This court has evidence of forged documents, unauthorized bank transfers, and what appears to be a coordinated attempt to defraud a terminally ill man. Bailiff, please escort Ms. Stout and Mr. Richardson to the clerk's office. They'll need to surrender their passports." The courtroom erupted. Will's lawyers huddled, frantically whispering. Eliza's mascara-stained face twisted with rage as she pointed at me. "You think this makes you win? You think Dad loved you more? He pitied you. You had nothing else in your life, so he threw you a bone." "That's enough." Rick stood, but I touched his arm. "No, let her finish. Let everyone see exactly who she is." Jude grabbed his sister's arm. "Come on, we need to go. Will, do something." But Will was already walking away, phone pressed to his ear. "Get me my accountant," I heard him say. "And a divorce lawyer." The bailiff approached. "Ma'am, please come with me." As they were led out, I opened Dad's envelope for the first time. Inside was a single photograph. Me at 12 years old, proudly holding up that penguin tie. On the back, in his shaky handwriting, "The moment I should have known who really loved me." Rick gathered his papers. "It's over, Skylar. You won." But watching my siblings being escorted away, seeing the ruins of our family scattered across the courtroom floor, it didn't feel like winning. It felt like the end of a long, painful story, one that had started long before Dad got sick. Outside, rain was still falling. I held Dad's photo close, protecting it from the drops, and headed home to an empty house full of memories. The knock came at midnight. I opened the door to find a face I hadn't seen in 15 years. My mother, Juliana, elegant as ever in her designer coat. "The prodigal mother returns," I said flatly. "Did you read about us in the papers? May I come in?" She didn't wait for an answer, sweeping past me into the house. "Still smells like your father's pipe tobacco. You should open some windows." "Why are you here?" She settled onto the couch, crossing her legs precisely. "I saw the court records. Quite the drama you've all created." "All?" I laughed bitterly. "Where were you when Dad was dying, when I was changing his morphine patches at 3 a.m? I was exactly where I needed to be, away from this toxic family." She pulled out a cigarette but didn't light it. "You think you're the only one who saw what they really were? Don't pretend you left to protect anyone but yourself. No?" She arched an eyebrow. "Ask yourself why Eliza and Jude were so entitled, why they expected everything handed to them. Your father spoiled them after I left, trying to compensate. But you?" She studied me. "You were different, always watching, always thinking." "Stop," I said. "You don't get to analyze us like some distant observer." "You were our mother." "Was I?" She finally lit the cigarette. "Eliza was 7 when I caught her stealing money from my purse to buy candy. When I confronted her, she blamed the housekeeper, got that poor woman fired. Jude was worse. He'd break things and cry until your father bought him new ones. But you..." She blew out a stream of smoke. "You just watched and learned." A text lit up my phone. Amber. "Police just released Eliza and Jude on bail. Be careful." "They're out," I told Juliana. "Happy, your precious firstborns are free." "Precious?" She laughed harshly. "I left because I couldn't stand watching what they were becoming. Your father thought love meant giving them everything. I knew it would destroy them." "And me? What was I?" "You were the smart one, the one who saw through the manipulation, just like I did." She stood, moving to Dad's desk. "Have you looked in here since he died?" "Every drawer." "Why?" She ran her fingers along the edge of the middle drawer, then pressed something. A hidden compartment popped open. Inside lay a letter, yellowed with age. "How did you know?" I whispered. "Because I helped him build that drawer 20 years ago. Read it." The envelope was addressed to me. "In case they turn on you." "He wrote this before he got sick," Juliana said softly. "He knew even then how it would end." My hands shook as I opened it. Dad's strong, healthy handwriting filled the page. "My dearest Skylar, if you're reading this, then your mother was right about everything. About Eliza's manipulations, about Jude's selfishness, about the rot that money and privilege created in their hearts. I didn't listen when she tried to warn me. By the time I saw the truth, it was too late to change them. But you were always different. You saw people for who they really were. Like your mother." I didn't understand when she left, but now I do. Sometimes love means walking away. Sometimes justice means letting people face the consequences of their actions. I'm sorry for the burden I've placed on you. Sorry for the years you lost caring for me. But I'm not sorry for trusting you with the truth. Take care of yourself, my quiet warrior. Love, Dad. Juliana touched my shoulder. He finally understood at the end why I left, why you stayed. We're the same, you and I. We see through the lies. I'm nothing like you, I said, but my voice wavered. No? She moved toward the door. Then why does your victory feel so hollow? She left as suddenly as she'd arrived, leaving only the scent of expensive perfume and uncomfortable truths. I clutched Dad's letter, understanding finally blooming like a dark flower. I wasn't just Dad's heir. I was my mother's daughter, cursed with the ability to see people's true nature and burdened with the strength to act on that knowledge. The question was, what would I do with that power now? The courtroom fell silent as Eliza took the stand. Her designer outfit couldn't hide the dark circles under her eyes or the slight tremor in her hands. Ms. Stout, her lawyer began, please explain your relationship with your father during his illness. I was busy with my own family, she said, voice cracking, but I loved him. We all did. Objection, Rick called out. Relevance. I'm establishing character, Your Honor. Judge Martinez nodded. Proceed, but keep it brief. Did you authorize any bank transfers from your father's account? No. Eliza straightened her spine. Never. Rick stood slowly, holding a tablet. Permission to approach? He played a security video from Dad's study. There was Eliza, clearly visible, leaning over Dad's shoulder as he dozed in his chair. Her hand moving the mouse, clicking through online banking screens. That's not... I was just helping him organize his accounts. While he was unconscious? Rick's voice was gentle, which somehow made it worse. The medical records show he was heavily sedated that day. Yet, somehow, $50,000 moved from his account to yours. Eliza's lawyer jumped up. Your Honor, the prosecution has bank records, time-stamped videos, and witness statements from the hospice nurse. Rick continued. Would you like to revise your testimony? Eliza crumbled. He owed me all those years of promises of telling me I was his princess, his favourite. So you took what you thought you deserved? Rick asked. Skylar got everything. The house, his time, his love, because she was there, Rick interrupted. Every day, every night, every moment of pain and fear and confusion. Where were you? Objection, Eliza's lawyer shouted, badgering the witness. But Eliza wasn't listening. She was staring at me, tears streaming down her face. You think you're so perfect? You think you won? I had a life, children. While you were playing nurse, I was building something real. Miss. Stout, Judge Martinez warned. Control yourself. Tell them about the morphine, Skylar. Tell them how you kept him sedated so he couldn't call us. Tell them. That's enough. The judge's gavel crashed down. Bailiff, remove the witness. As they led Eliza away, Jude stood up from the gallery. This is insane. You can't. Sit down, Mr. Richardson, Judge Martinez ordered, unless you'd like to join your sister in contempt of court. The rest of the trial passed in a blur. Expert witnesses confirmed the forged signatures. Bank investigators detailed the unauthorized transfers. Dad's doctors testified about his mental clarity when making the video will. Finally, Judge Martinez cleared her throat. This court finds overwhelming evidence of attempted fraud, financial elder abuse, and criminal conspiracy. The will stands as written, with all assets transferring to Skylar Richardson. Furthermore, I'm ordering both Eliza Stout and Jude Richardson to pay restitution for the misappropriated funds. She turned to face my siblings directly. You didn't just try to steal money, You tried to steal dignity from a dying man. You tried to punish the one person who showed him real love and care. In my years on the bench, I've rarely seen such calculated cruelty masked as family rights. Jude stormed out before she finished speaking. Eliza sat frozen, mascara running down her cheeks. Court is adjourned. Outside, reporters swarmed the steps. Rick guided me through the chaos to his car. It's done, he said quietly. They can't hurt you anymore. No, I agreed, watching Eliza being led to a police car for processing. But they can't hurt themselves anymore either. Maybe that's what Dad really wanted. My phone buzzed, a text from my mother. Justice served. Now comes the hard part, living with it. As Rick drove me home, I thought about the empty house waiting for me. About Dad's study, still smelling of pipe tobacco. About the family photos I couldn't bring myself to take down. You know what the worst part is, I said finally. Part of me still loves them. Part of me wishes this had ended differently. Rick patted my hand. That's what makes you different from them. That's why your father chose you. But as we pulled into the driveway, I saw Jude's car parked in the shadows, waiting. This wasn't over yet. Go inside, I told Rick. Call the police if you don't hear from me in 10 minutes. Jude sat on Dad's garden bench, an empty whiskey bottle at his feet. His expensive suit was wrinkled, tie loose around his neck. Come to gloat? He slurred. Lashum? No. I sat beside him, keeping a safe distance. Come to finish this. Finish what? You've taken everything. Have I? I pulled out my phone, showed him the photo of Dad wearing that penguin tie during chemo. Remember this day? You were supposed to drive him to treatment. He waited 3 hours before I found him crying in the driveway. I had a meeting. You were at a golf resort. I saw the credit card statement. He grabbed for the phone, but missed, nearly falling off the bench. Always the perfect daughter, always keeping receipts, taking notes, building your case. No, I cut him off. Always being there. That's the difference. It wasn't about the money, Jude. It was never about the money. Then what was it about? Love. Simple as that. Real love. The kind that shows up, that stays, that doesn't keep score. He laughed bitterly. And now you've won. The house, the money, Dad's precious last words. I didn't win anything. We all lost. I stood up, pulling an envelope from my pocket. But maybe we can lose less. What's that? A check. Your share of Dad's life insurance. The real one, not the policy you tried to cash out early. His hand shook as he opened it. Why? Because you're still my brother. Because Dad would want you to have a chance to do better. I stepped back. But Jude, this is it. The last time. If you ever try to hurt me or this family again, you'll what? Release more videos? More evidence? No. I'll just let you live with who you've become. The words hit him like a physical blow. He crumpled the check, then smoothed it out again. I don't remember the last time I hugged him, he whispered. I can't remember if I ever told him I loved him. He knew. That's why it hurt him so much. Jude stood unsteadily. Eliza's leaving the country, Will's divorcing her, everything we built. You can build again, better this time. He walked to his car, then turned back. The penguin tie. I saw him wearing it once during a video call. I thought he was losing his mind, wearing something so ridiculous to chemo. He said it made the nurses laugh. That laughter was better medicine than anything they could put in his IV. Jude nodded slowly. Goodbye, Skylar. Goodbye, brother. I watched his taillights disappear down the driveway, then went inside where Rick waited anxiously. Everything okay? No, I said honestly. But maybe it will be. The next morning, I opened Dad's study for the first time since the trial. Sunlight streamed through the windows, dust motes dancing in the beams. The penguin tie still hung on his coat rack. I took it down, wrapped it carefully, and placed it in a box with other memories. His pipe, his favourite books, the photo albums he'd curated so carefully. The cleaning service would come tomorrow to prepare the room for its new purpose. My phone buzzed, an email from the library board approving my proposal. Next month, Dad's study would become a reading room for cancer patients and their families. A place of comfort, of quiet strength, of the kind of love that shows up and stays. On the desk, I found one final note in Dad's handwriting, tucked inside his favourite book. Dearest Skylar, remember that justice without mercy is just revenge. And revenge, no matter how sweet, leaves a bitter aftertaste. I trust you to find the balance. Love always, Dad. I picked up the penguin tie one last time, smiling at the dancing figures that had made so many nurses laugh. Then I opened the curtains wide, letting light flood the room that had seen so much darkness. They left with suitcases of lies. I stayed with truth and silence. And somehow, in that silence, I found not just justice, but peace.